we got a lot of stuff going on here, so and I have to play this song. The song is like, first of all, for those of you guys that don't know, like I've been playing this intro song for like the last 10 episodes or so. Well, my baby, this is a friend of mine, but he's blowing up the music scene. He's literally becoming like his new album. I mean, he has like probably millions of streams, whatever it is. He's doing really well. A guy by the name of Rob Linus. All right. Got 6 more waiting on that telephone. All right. That operator praises me. He praised my name. He's been working overtime since you went away. He's got kids. All right. What's up? What's going on? Well, welcome to the first ever Monday edition of Sales Tales. So I was in this house. We got an amazing guest today. Seriously, like the guy puts out incredible content. I just want to point something out. I'm going to bring him up on the stage here, and I just want to point something out real quick because I think this is kind of neat. But so I just found out today because I didn't know where he was from, and turns out he's actually from Indiana, northern Indiana, and so if you guys notice here, I'm going to bring him up here. I'm wearing my Hawkins, which I know is a fictitious setting, but it is in Indiana. Yep. So I'm like, I gotta wear my Hawkins shirt because first of all, I love Stranger Things. I've actually been rewatching it with my daughters, and it's an amazing show. They love it. But
fun fact about that show, actually,
what's that?
Filmed in Georgia, and I grew up in Georgia, so I'm in both states that fictitiously happened and actually happened. So
yeah, that's very, very interesting, and I did know that, and it's funny you say that because if a lot of film and TV is filmed, apparently Georgia has very good tax laws and all sorts of other laws for film and movies, for film and TV. So that's cool. Well, HVAC Nate, welcome to Sales Tales. So I was in this house, and you're in a lot of houses, man. Dude, I love your videos, bro. I love your videos, and I love how you kind of like, I went on a rant one day, and you were like, dude, cool rant, and you posted it, and actually it was really cool because a lot of people checked out my page, and so it's pretty cool. But HVAC Nate, for people that actually don't know who you are, who is HVAC Nate?
Well, do you want the short version or long version? No, I'm kidding.
The Disney version.
Okay. So HVAC Nate started in the HVAC industry about 4 years ago, right during the start of COVID. So honestly, I had wanted to get into the HVAC industry for about 2 years before I did. And kind of I was in a weird spot in my life. I was in between jobs and trying to figure out if I wanted to live in Indiana near my now wife, or if we wanted to move to Kentucky or possibly even Georgia. So we were kind of back and forth between all those places. So I was trying to find a job in Kentucky at the time. And I had worked in HVAC during the summers as just like a helper on factory roofs, changing out filters. And it was kind of like the first job that I had ever had where I was really interested in it. And I really wanted to learn more about it. I mean, we would get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock some days to go do these maintenances on factory roofs. And it was just interesting to me. Like I was really intrigued on like how these huge machines that I was working on actually put out cold air or put out hot air, you know? So I would ask the technicians I was running with every day questions all day long. Like, how does this work? How does this work? And they kind of like, one of them kind of turned and looked at me once and said like, are you just like a summer help, or like, are you going to be doing this? You know? I was like, no, man, I think I want to do this, you know? And I was in school at that time. I had a plan to become a physician's assistant. But that kind of just didn't work out. Like I wasn't the best in school grade wise, obviously. So
I don't know why you say obviously.
Because I'm a technician.
You seem like a smart guy. I mean,
I tried to be.
Yeah.
But I'm not the best. I don't have good book smarts. I'll say that. So I wasn't good at test taking. So in turn, that kind of didn't reflect well on my grades. But that being said, I kind of was looking for a career change, or a major change at that point. I went into business, and business, like, it's kind of related, but into the trades, but it was still kind of boring to me, honestly, because it's a lot
what kind of business did you get into?
Business administration.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was, I did that for like a year, and then I just figured I'm just going to try to get into HVAC. So I took about like a year and a half, just trying to find a job in HVAC, and eventually found one up here in Indiana. And that's when I moved to Indiana right during the start of COVID. Great time to start into a residential job. So I started in HVAC in about 2020 and been that way ever since. I started my channel around a year ago now. So I'm posting videos, making videos, putting out content on Instagram for about a year. So
what inspired you to start doing these videos? Because some of them are really informative. I mean, some of them are actually really well done. And for those of you that are in HVAC, that watch HVAC Nate's videos, they're great. I mean, they're super informative, and like almost some of the stuff's like step by step and super cool, man. I mean, I got to give it to you. Like, I think there's a lot of people that put out those channels and they're not, maybe they don't come out quite as, quite as well, but geez, I mean, they're really well done. And so I guess you spend a lot of time sort of editing and trying to figure out. Yeah. So what inspired you to kind of do this?
Well, a couple things. So when I first started out, like I said, I basically had zero experience. Like the majority of my knowledge was I knew how to change a filter and sometimes change a belt on a blower motor, barely any knowledge at all. So whenever I kind of got into it as a maintenance technician, I kind of had to basically figure everything out. They threw me to the wolves. Like they trained me for about 2 weeks and gave me a van and said, go out and do your thing. So I kind of had to figure it out by myself. Now, for someone that's new to a trade, that not always works out. Like I feel like it worked out for me, but I feel like sometimes it doesn't work out for everyone. So I kind of wanted to give back to the industry by putting out those videos, because I know the younger generation is on TikTok and Instagram. So if I put out those helpful videos to try to maybe give someone an upper hand on becoming successful sooner. So that was basically my my thought behind why I wanted to do it.
So your motivation was literally because no one gave you any training. So you were like, you know what, let me at least put some stuff out there. It is pretty crazy. I think you could probably almost become like a full-blown technician today. Like, just going online and just educating yourself. It's bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, like, as a technician, we're always learning. Like, there's always new technology coming out. There's always something new to try to grasp for ourselves. So honestly, like, it's a good tool for everyone, not just new technicians. It's for old technicians too. I've learned so much from TikTok, like TikTok, YouTube, like I've learned so much from them, and without them, I don't know where I'd be, honestly. So,
all right. So you've been at tech for 4 years now. Is it primarily, it looks like residential primarily, right?
Yeah. I do a little bit of commercial, but not anything that's, worth talking about, really.
Yeah. So tell me some of your experiences in the 4 years that you've been doing this. Anything interesting? Anything you've learned from people?
No, nothing. No, I'm kidding.
And well, that's it. That's it, folks. Wrap it up.
No, I'm kidding.
Nate has nothing to talk about.
I mean, there's some, let me preface this first off by saying I love my customers. Like, I got into this industry not only because I'm a tech at heart, but I mean, I love customers. Like, I love interacting with them, good and bad. Like, I mean, you get those bad customers, you've had them, I'm sure. But I mean, when you have a good customer that really appreciates you and what you're doing, like, that makes it all worth it. Like 100%, that makes it all worth it. So that all being said, I would like to start my first story with one of the worst customers I've ever had.
Oh, I love it. Let's get busy. Hey, by the way, what's up, David? We got a TikTok viewer over here who owns a company here in Dallas.
Oh, okay, cool. What's
Yeah.
up? Yeah. So I was in this house. I call this guy the filter guy because so for some reason he was bent out of shape about his filter. No pun intended. So basically, I go there for maintenance. And when I get there, this guy is like, "Hey, how's it going? You know, introduce ourselves, whatever." And he says to me like, "Hey, by the way, I already changed the filter. You don't have to worry about it. That's fine." I was like, "Okay, cool." So I go downstairs and start doing my thing. But I mean, whenever someone tells me they changed the filter, I don't ever believe them because I've had those issues before where they said the filter was changed yesterday, and I look at the date on it and it says it was changed 3 years ago. So I always check the filter no matter what they say. So I take the filter out of the return. The filter was in a weird spot. So not to get too technical because I know there's people on here that aren't in HVAC. But basically, there's a return drop that goes down to the furnace and turns into the furnace, and your filter usually sits right here, right before the furnace. And most people know you take your filter out and put your new filter in. This one, instead of being right before the furnace, was up here in the return duct, and there was a little cutout right on the return duct where you slide the filter in. So I see that, pull the filter out. And as soon as I pull the filter out, I hear metal falling down into the return duct. I'm like, okay.
Oh.
That sounds. So I go about my thing downstairs, do what I need to do, and I go to put the filter back in, and it just keeps getting sucked down like this, like it's not sitting in there straight. So I think at one point I get it to the right position and it's stuck in there correctly, and it's like this. I'm like, okay, cool, crisis averted, whatever. So
can we do this real quick for anybody that's watching? Can we take a poll as to what we think this metal thing was that fell down into the return duct? I'll vote last.
Okay.
I'll vote last. Let's see, guys, chime in the chat and let's see if you can guess like what the metal thing was that fell down.
Yeah, it was not fun, but so I get the filter back in there, or so I think. It's sitting straight. I'm like, okay, cool, crisis averted. I start going outside. I start doing my stuff outside. I check refrigerant levels and I check my capacitor, and I take the unit all apart because on my maintenance, I always like to take everything apart down to the.
But you left the metal thing down there. You were like, I'm not opening up the furnace cabinet yet.
No, well, that's the thing. I couldn't get to that metal thing because he had a hot water coil in the return before that or after that filter. So whatever had fallen down in there, I was not getting to it.
Okay.
So there's that. So I go outside and I'm starting to do my thing, and he comes out there and starts cussing me out. And he's like, "What the F? What are you doing? Like, I told you not to touch my filter, blah, blah." And I'm like, whoa, like, what happened? Like, sir, like, I understand you're upset, but please don't cuss at me. You know, let's go downstairs and try to figure this out. And then I go downstairs, and the whole entire way down the stairs, he's cussing me out, like telling me like I'm never coming back to the house, blah, blah. So I get down to the furnace and I'm like, this situation is like too far gone at this point. Like I am not going to touch this furnace anymore. So I tell him, I was like, okay, well, you go ahead and do what you need to do to it because I'm not going to mess it up more. And
Lauren says, I don't know if you can see the screen right there.
Oh.
Lauren says that she thinks it was a screw. I'm going to say no, it was not a screw, Lauren.
Unfortunately, it was not a screw, but
okay.
So
and Rodney says it was what was holding the filter in place.
So maybe like is that another word for like a bracket or something? Rodney?
Maybe. So maybe, but here's the thing. I don't think it's that either.
Okay.
I don't think it's that either. Let's see if anybody else chimes in here. Not yet. I'm gonna guess. You ready? Here's what I think that metal thing was.
Okay.
A gun.
That would have been worse.
I think it was a gun. I think it was a gun that you moved the filter and a gun fell down.
I would have gotten out of there right then if that was the case. But
yeah.
So he's telling me, he's cussing at me all the way down the stairs. Then I tell him I'm not going to, touch it anymore because I don't want to mess it up anymore. So he's like, okay, fine. And then he goes over to the filter and he's messing with it for like 5 minutes, trying to pull it out, push it back in. He can't get it to sit right. And then he turns to me. He's like, you know what? You just need to get off my property. Get your stuff and leave. It's like, all right. So I go outside, I gather all my things and leave. And his unit was all taken apart. And I unfortunately left it apart because I was not going to stay on the property long enough for him to get more mad at me. So yeah, I left it like that. I called my manager and told her what happened. And she said, you did the right thing. I would not have stayed there longer either. And yeah, that was the end of that.
So we don't know what the metal thing was.
The metal thing was probably a bracket, honestly. Probably.
Oh, come on. Boo. So I think it was Tersh. It was Church, or it was Jason Walker who said that they were working on a return and they pulled like the return filter grill off the wall. And there was like, it was a new house or something. It was they had bought the house, but the house was there for a long time. And he found like a relic inside there. It was worth like bazillions of dollars. It was somebody had hid like, wait, was it a safe? Might have been a safe. It was a safe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Lauren says, I just had a plumber tell me he found a gun in the toilet tank taped in there today. So Lauren, interesting. You know what that reminds me of? Come on. What does that remind everybody of?
Great question.
The Godfather. He pulls the gun out from behind the toilet. Don't tell me don't tell me you never saw The Godfather, bro.
How old are you, Everett?
It doesn't matter. It's a classic. I wasn't alive when that movie came out.
When does that movie came out?
That movie, like 75, 76.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One of the best TV shows I actually ever saw was is a TV show about the making of The Godfather. And it was done in a just like a regular TV show way, but like, I don't know what you call it. Like it wasn't a documentary. It was like, anyway, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. It was on Paramount. I forget what it's called. If anybody knows what it was called. Rodney says he worked for you for a while. He wanted to tell you what's up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He does work.
Yeah. He did work for you. All right. So
not for me.
he worked with you. Hey, did you when you did this thing, when you invented this thing, were you like, when your snap fingers like, what's up, guys? Like, was that like just like you were like, screw it, this is like a branding kind of thing? Like, I'm gonna go, what's up, guys? Like, you start your videos like that or what?
I guess, I don't know. Like, I think it was just something that I did like early on, and I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll keep that.
It'll stick, man. And see, that's so funny too. I mean, I guess I mean. You can learn something there. I think anybody can learn something there. I mean, obviously you have what, 5,000, 6,000 followers on TikTok. You've done, I mean, in a year, you've done really well. I think we both have run parallels in this. I've been shocked at sort of the whole thing, I guess, but yeah. What else? HVAC Nate?
Well, let's see here. So I had a couple written down. Oh, dude, this is a good one. So
what's this one called?
So this one is called Smeller Girl. So I was in this house.
Ooh, I like it. You used the tagline, bro.
I do. I got to get you views, man. That's what this is. So this started out, I was training this one guy. We're pretty good friends. I had trained him at actually a previous company that I worked at. Then I came to the company I'm at now, and he came with me like a couple months later.
Right.
I was training him on just like basic stuff, how to use the software and all that. So we were riding around together, and we go to this one service call. The note stated that it was during winter, so it was a furnace, no heat. situation. So we go out because the notes say that when the thermostat meets the set point, so they had it set at 74. When it meets 74, the furnace turns off.
Yeah, it sounds like a really bad service call.
Yeah,
It sounds like you got to go investigate that, see what's going on with the
right.
furnace operating properly.
Yeah. So, and this was a new customer. Like, it wasn't a maintenance customer, like trying to get their maintenance done or anything. Like, this was a new customer. We had never been to this house before.
Right.
So I walk in and I walk to the thermostat, and we both look at the thermostat and we both look back and forth at each other. We're like, yeah, that's 74. It's 74 in here. So we go talk. We're like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, is something happening where it's getting colder at night or something? We're technicians, so we're trying to figure out if there's actually something wrong here. Yeah, it gets to 74 and it hits 74, turns off. And you're like, yeah, that's usually what the thermostat does. It turns the furnace off so it doesn't overheat the house. And they're like, well, it's cold in here. Okay, well, we can turn the thermostat up. Like, we can turn it up to like 75. Would that be more comfortable for you? I'm like, yeah, let's do 75. And we're like, well, at this point, we're thinking, like, looking back and forth, like, we still need to charge them because we, took a trip out here.
It's a service call. It is what it
is.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, like, let's go check everything out at the furnace. Go check everything out, make sure everything's okay, and then we'll charge you the trip fee and be on our way if nothing's wrong. They're like, okay, that sounds good. So we go down there. We're like looking back and forth at each other, like, dude, this is crazy. Like, what's going on here?
Was she a weird person?
Yes, very.
Okay.
So we check everything out, basically do a maintenance on it because we're like, we need to give them the value of this money that they're spending. So
sure.
We do the maintenance, and then we go up there and we're like, yeah, everything's okay. We get to talking to them, trying to get payment from them. And they gave us a really hard time about payment. Like, they wouldn't give us their debit card so we can enter in the number to our system and take payment. Like, they wouldn't let us do that. So then we're like, well, we can take a check or cash or whatever works for you, So we take that. And then what
do they do? Did they check or cash?
They did check because they did not want to give us their debit card information for some reason. I don't know. Yeah. So we get their card information. Then it must have been her daughters came downstairs and like sat down on the couch and were like around us after we were done with everything. But they were like,
"Hey Nate, you're muted on TikTok." Somebody just commented.
Yeah, I am. I would recommend they go over to YouTube because if I turn on the mic, you're going to get feedback.
Okay, so head over to YouTube. Apparently, there's an audio thing, and go to YouTube. So you can. Are you streaming on your YouTube channel too?
I'm not.
Okay, so Sales Tales podcast on Sales Tales. So I was in this house, not the other guy who makes boring videos. I make the one that's more fun.
Yeah, right.
You'll see the logo. Right. Oh man. Okay. You don't have AirPods? You have AirPods?
I did. They broke.
Oh, wonderful. All right. We got to get you. You have all this fancy videos you make. All right. So what happened? What happened here? Okay. The lady gives you a check. What happens here?
So when she's giving us payment, or we're like going back and forth about if she's going to give us her debit card or not, her daughters come down the stairs and sit on the couch and start like watching TV. And while she's writing out the check, one of her daughters looks over at my buddy, who's I'm training right now. She just says, "You smell good." And he's like,
the daughter says this or the woman says this?
The daughter just says, "You smell good." Like, looks directly like at him like this and says, "You smell good." And he's like taken aback. He's like, "Oh, well, maybe you were smelling something else. Like, I don't know." And she's like, "No, it's you. You smell good." And at this point, I'm like, all right, dude, we got to get out of here. So she hands me the check. We're like, all right, see you later. We leave. The whole way to the car, we're like trying not to bust up laughing. We get in the car and we're just like dying laughing, dude. It was one of the funniest things that has ever happened to me. I don't know what it was. Like, she was just like,
maybe you just smelled good, bro, and you just got to own it. Just own smelling good, bro. What's so hard about that, dude? You smell good, so just let her smell you and get it over, and then get a service customer for life. And then every time you go, you set a little time aside, be like, okay, this is the smelling session, and then you let her smell you.
It was whatever happened there. Like, I mean, there must have been some mental issues going on there.
Yeah, obviously she was mental, bro. She's like, I mean, no, but is it that well, hold on. Is it that uncommon for somebody to say to somebody else, like, you smell good? Like, it's not that uncommon.
No, not at all. But it was
the way in which she said it.
Yeah, it was very way. Like,
and here's the lesson, folks. It's not even what you say. It's how you say it. James says male sweat pheromones. It's possible, James. It's possible. So going back to your filter story. So I had this wonderful couple, okay, in like Tom's River, New Jersey. I was in New Jersey. And this, so it was funny. We had a service tech there earlier. I got there to quote the system. And so I asked them, I was like, so let me ask you, so when's the last time you guys actually, changed your filter? And they were like, we just found out that we had a filter. I said, when? They said, today. I said, well, how long have you been here? And they said, we moved in like 1989.
Oh.
I was like, wow. So sometimes, things are obvious. Sometimes they're not. I mean, there's a reason why there's professionals do what they do in general, and why, people have maintenance on their units. And, I think actually, so on the flip side of what you do, like, you put out videos that are designed for HVAC techs to learn. But the thing is, on the flip side of that, you have a lot of like do-it-yourselfers who, dude, man, they fuck shit up, bro. They have no idea what they're doing. Like,
and that's the thing too. Like, I mean, I 100% get trying to save money. 100%. Like, I'm one of those people who will try to do it myself and then call a professional out. But there's a point when I try that thing and I'm like, okay, I need a professional out. I'm not going to mess this up any more than I already have.
Yeah.
Like, when I go to a house and someone has removed the whole circuit board off their furnace and left all the wires everywhere, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. James says that's great for us. Yes, I have definitely gone and we're, and here's the flip side of that. Check this out. I went to a house where these people, they had given this guy, I think they got a quote, like at the time it might've been like, let's just say it was $6,000. Okay. For an HVAC system, upflow in a basement. Okay. And like the going rate, like for HVAC systems from like a professional company is quite a bit higher than that. So, and I'm not saying that you can't do an install for 6,000, but the going rate to run a proper business is $6,000 is not enough money. You won't be able to stay in business. Like, it's not realistic. Right. So they paid it. Here's what happened. Guy dropped off the equipment, didn't make his connections, planted everything downstairs in the basement, removed the condenser, left, never came back. Took their deposit. I think they paid like $3,000 or $4,000. Then when I got there, they had already been back and forth with the handymans, kind of, I think I could do it kind of thing. And they were kind of like, you know what? We're so done. So not only did they spend the $3,000 or $4,000 deposit for everything and not have that guy come back, but then they ended up spending like, it was something like 13, 15 grand or whatever at the time. So yeah, not so great sometimes when you get like,
those horror stories are too common. And I always tell people, look, dude, like, I know it's X amount of dollars more than this buddy you have over here, but you're going to pay for that money that you aren't spending by going with him. Like, it happens every single time. Now, granted, you will get a couple, like, no name people who do good work, but they will have customers that are willing to back them up. And eventually they will get more expensive. So
there's no, I have no doubt that that's the way, of course, like when you're starting out, maybe you're going to be a little cheaper. Okay. you don't really know how to run the business. You poke and prod, you try to figure it out. Right. Um, and I love entrepreneurship and I love people that are trying to make things happen. Like kudos to them, man, for trying to make it happen. Like I absolutely have no qualms with that at all. Right. Like I think it's a part of business, a part of competition too. Right. Like you can listen, you want the company, the big company who's going to like be there and 24/7, 365, and you can yell at them at any time of day. You're going to pay for it. Right.
Yeah.
And plenty of people do. You want something that's more budget friendly and you're just thinking about, kind of costs and blah, 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 whatever. Then, there's a company out there for you to do that too. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually was thinking about something else I was going to ask you and I flaked, but,
filters before.
No, it's all right. It'll come to me. What else you got on the roster there?
Well, I've talked a lot about, kind of bad customers at this point. Maybe not bad customers, just like
interesting, difficult. That's what everybody wants to hear anyway.
So what I said at the beginning was like, look, like I love my customers. There's good and the bad, but right now, like I've had some really good customers recently. I'll say that. I work at Legacy Heating and Air in Northern Indiana. They have one of the best customer bases I know of. Like their customers really, they know what we're worth, they know our value, and they're willing to pay whatever needs to be done to get the job done, right? So that's a really good advantage as a technician, because not only can we take care of our customers, but we can do it by making the company money and making ourselves money in an honest way. So this story happened to me today. So I was in this house. It was a condo. This condo sits on one of the most well-known rivers in our area. So it's a pretty wealthy, well-to-do condo. It sits on St. Joe River. So I was walking into the building. So you walk into the main entrance and you have to buzz in to the main door and walk and go to an elevator and go up to the condo you're going to. So as I'm walking in, this guy leans over the balcony on the third floor, and he's like, hey, like I locked myself out on my balcony. Like, can you get the maintenance guy and have him come up here and come in my apartment and let me back into my apartment? And I was like, yeah, I got you. I'll do whatever. So like I go in there and he says to find Ed. Ed's the maintenance guy. Look around everywhere for Ed. I go down to the basement, look for Ed. I can't find Ed. So I go up to the person I was supposed to service that day. And I'm like, hey, like this number apartment, he's stuck out on his balcony. Like I need help finding Ed. So they're like, oh, I got Ed's number. I was like, perfect. This way we can get this guy off of this balcony. So she calls Ed, can't get a hold of Ed. Ed goes straight to voicemail, can't get a hold of Ed. So we're like, well, what do we do? Like, do we just wait for Ed to call back? So I go out to the front, go all the way down, go out front, and I'm like, hey, we can't get a hold of Ed. Do you have anyone else like I can call to like get over here to let you in? Like anyone else have a key? And he's like, oh yeah, my sister has a key. So I was like, okay, what's your sister's number? So I type in his sister's number and I call her. It goes straight to voicemail. Actually, no, it says disconnected, number disconnected. So I'm like, okay, well, do you have another number that I could call maybe? And he's like, yeah, try this one. That one's disconnected. So I go back up to the person I'm servicing and I'm like, hey, like, can we try to call Ed again? Like, what do we need to do here? Like, I'm trying to get this guy off the balcony. She calls a couple more people and eventually gets hold of the president of the condo. And the president is like an hour and a half away. And the president's like, okay, I got someone that could be there in like 30 minutes and let this guy in. So I go out there. I'm like, hey, president was called. We're getting someone out here. They're about half an hour away. They're going to let you in. And he's like, okay, great. So I get to talking to him. And he's like, yeah, my name's so-and-so. Like, I have lived here for so long or whatever. And I'm like, well, like, I hate that you're out here. And he's like, well, it's happened before. was like, oh, really? Like, when did it happen? How? Also, like, I didn't understand like how he got locked out on his balcony, because he had a sliding glass door, so it's not like it could be locked from the outside or anything. It was like one of those pull-up locks on the handle that you lock
Right.
from the inside. So
Right.
I was just like, well, how did this happen? And he's like, well, like I have a board that like sits at the bottom of that sliding door to keep it from sliding back, and I always prop it up, and then my cat comes,
Whoop.
hits it, and then it comes down and locks me in or locks me out. And I'm like, okay, first off, you probably need to get rid of that cat. Second of all, who cares about locking a third floor balcony door? Like, no one's gonna climb up to a third floor balcony to get in. There was no way to get up there. Like, I have a 12-foot extension ladder that goes all the way out to 24 feet, and I wouldn't have been able to reach into my ladder.
So, so two things. So one, so I want to talk to you about the key lock guy. And the other thing is you can unmute on TikTok, by the way, and just keep the volume all the way down. You don't have to.
Well, that's what I was doing before, and you still heard me, but I can try it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's fine. Hey, so I went to this. Oh, I see. No. Oh, you know what? It's fine. No. Unmute it. I don't need the volume on this. I'm just going to turn on the volume. We're good. Turn yourself back up and we're rocking and rolling.
Right.
Yeah, we're good now. I realized that I was hearing myself because I myself am watching the live stream. So yeah. Anyway, so well that was interesting. So we're two brainiacs over here just trying to figure out life. Unbelievable.
I'm just
so anyway, okay. So I was in this house, but check this out. I walk up to the house and there's a little guy. He's like not a little guy, not like a little person. He's just like a short guy, right?
Uh-huh.
And I come, it's a pretty nice house. I walk up. It's not like crazy nice, but it's okay, right? Anyway, so I walk up. It's not like in the boonies or whatever. I walk up and the guy lets me in the house and he's like jingling all these keys. And I'm like, what are we jingling here? And then I've told this story before, but I find it's so relevant to what you're saying. And then let's
know this, but go ahead.
Oh, you did remember this one?
I do remember it, but
yeah.
I'm not the only
Anyway, he walks in, he locks the door behind me, and then there's no handle. It's just the lock. And so I'm like, what in the heck is going on? So some people are like really weird with their, and what it turned out, is pretty crazy. Like the guy was like completely OCD. He kept locking doors behind me and I got freaked out. Like I was trying to get out of the house for like, literally, I was just trying to get out of the house. I'm like, all right, I'm getting out of this house. Like I'm getting out of here. I feel like I'm going to be attacked. I don't know what's going on. You're locking all the doors behind me. Okay. I'm freaking out. And you're telling me go to the basement. And I'm like, dude, as soon as I go down to the basement, you're going to lock the door behind me. Like, hello.
Yeah, no, thanks. No, thanks.
So, you've listened to the podcast. What is one call that you have ran, one customer that you have dealt with that lives with you, that you take with you wherever you go, that was that impactful that you carry them day to day?
Yeah. This is probably one of my favorite questions you have on here, because it brings about a lot of good conversation. This podcast, it's mostly like we're laughing and shooting the crap, so this is one of my favorite questions that you ask people, because it just brings about a lot of good conversation and just impactful moments that people come across, because we deal with people, so there's a lot of stuff that happens to people every day that we don't even know about. So it kind of brings us back to a certain point when we come across those people, to realize that they're human. They're not just a number. They're not just someone we're going to try to get the most money out of if we can, because that's not how we work. That's not how we operate. Some people operate like that, but most people don't. So the story I have for that, so I was in this house. This one lady, she was a little older, mostly older people kind of tug on my heartstrings the most, because they've gone through the most in their lives. They've really gone through a lot of crap their whole entire lives most of the time, and they're just trying to basically survive at that point. And that's the sad reality of it. They're just trying to survive. This one lady I went to, she was in a really bad spot. Like, a salesman actually went out before me because their air conditioner wasn't working and she knew it was old. So instead of calling a service tech, she called a salesman out to sell her new equipment. The salesman, when I called him on the way there, because I had a debrief with him before I got there, he told me that as soon as he walked in the door for his appointment, she was like, "Hey, my name is blah, blah. What can you give to me for free today? Because I don't have any money." And he was like taken aback by that. He's like, "Well, I mean, not much, honestly. Like, I mean, we're a business. We got to make money. Like, I understand your financial stance on things is hard, but we can only give you so much. Like, we can give you discounts and all that, but we only give you so much." So after talking with her for a little bit longer, he realized, like, hey, like, instead of trying to sell her new stuff, like, maybe we just try to fix what she has, just as a, do-gooder type thing. So I go out there, I look at the system. It's like, I think it was like 36 years old or something. The furnace, like the whole bottom of it was rusted out. Like, it was a bad situation. Like, so I get to diagnosing and I figure out that the circuit board on the furnace is bad. I can't get anything else to work without that furnace board working. So I tell her, I was like, "Hey, this is what we need to replace to get everything else up and running, to make sure that everything else is okay. I'm not going to say this is going to be the only fix. It might be, it might not." It was $700 for that circuit board. So I go to her with that price. She's like, "I only have $100 to my name right now. That's all I have. Like, it's all I have." And I'm like, that's tough. Like, I don't have any authority at my company to discount anything, to a certain extent, maybe, but when it gets to like $600 off, like, that's not up to me, right? So I call the higher ups. I'm like, "Hey, this lady is wanting to see if she could possibly set up payments to pay for the circuit board. That's not usually something we do as a company. Usually it has to be over a certain amount to finance anything like that." And I start talking to one of the other higher ups after he referred me to someone else. And he said, "You know what? Just do it for free. Just do the circuit board for free." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, she's going to be head over heels amazed by that. That's awesome. Like, thank you so much." I tell her, she's like crying, she's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." So I go and grab the circuit board. It was like half an hour away. Get the circuit board. I come back, I put it in, and the fan turns on. And I'm like, "Okay, cool. The indoor portion is working great." And I check the voltage going to the outside unit. There's voltage going to the outside. I'm like, "Okay, cool. I don't hear the compressor running yet, but maybe the contactor is not pulled in yet or something. Maybe there's a 5-minute delay." So I go outside. The disconnect is out. So I flip it around, push it back in, and the fan kicks on outside. The compressor doesn't kick on.
Oh, no.
Now, for those who don't know HVAC, usually that means either the capacitor is bad or the compressor is bad. Now, remember, this is like a 35-plus-year-old unit. So,
yeah, so the capacitor to the battery and the compressor is an engine. It's literally the motor that moves the air conditioning system. Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, "Oh no, this is not good. This is not good." Because I'm thinking the whole entire time, like, I just want to take care of this lady. I feel so bad for her. Like, she's in a really bad spot. Like, I just want to take care of this lady. So the compressor doesn't turn on. I do some diagnosing, and I find that the compressor is shorted to ground.
It's grounded. Yeah. So so for those that don't know, that means
bad.
It's toast. Yeah.
It's done, especially on a 35-year-old unit that uses the old style refrigerant that has been outdated and outlawed. So I go inside. My head's like hanging, dude. Like, I'm like, I feel so bad. Like, I gotta break this bad news to this lady. It's 100 degrees outside and she's not gonna have air conditioning. Like she's got a huge dog in the house. I think it was like a Mastiff or something. And I got to tell her like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything. And I'm like telling her, and she's just like, you know what? Thank you so much. I'm like, what do you mean? Like your air conditioner's not working? She's like, you've done everything you could today, and I appreciate you for that. And she comes over and she gives me the biggest hug, and she says, I love you. I love you. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. So I get my stuff and I'm like walking out the door, after talking to her for a little bit. And she said, did you hear what I said? And I said, what? She said, I said, I love you. And I said, are you going to make me say it back to you? And she said, sure enough, I am. I'm like, okay, I love you too. And it was it was one of the most uplifting things. Like I was totally expecting to go in there, tell her this bad news, and her just start bawling, crying, and
yeah,
like I don't have any money, but no, she was like, thank you. And she like brought me waters out and everything after I told her. Like she was probably one of the best people I've ever met. Like she was just so awesome. Like
so it's pretty amazing that there's people who have like everything,
right.
and they're never happy. They're never content. They're just never right. They just never have enough, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then there's people who have nothing, who walk through this world and they got clear headspace. Like this woman, she she's probably like, you know what, man, I love you. Like, dude, you did what you could.
Yeah.
That's pretty heartwarming.
That was so great, man. That will, and like your question states, like what's something that will stay with you like your whole entire life. That lady is going to be on my mind forever, dude. Like whenever I come across a customer who's mad about his filter and how I pulled it out and it doesn't go back right, I'm gonna think of that lady, because she was happy with the bare minimum. She knew I tried my best. She knew I did everything I could, and she wasn't mad at me. She knew that I did everything I could. So
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Sometimes I will tell you that it might be the littlest things that will help somebody get through. And this is the sales portion of this. This, like you're HVAC Nate, you're giving technical advice, you're making amazing viral videos that, help people, do this stuff. But at the end of the day, you're right. Like we get hired to provide that service. And, and throughout my career with, obviously I'm in leadership now, but I mean, I ran, I don't know, 6,000 houses calls. I mean, it's a lot. Right. And, you learn a lot with you. And one of the lessons that I learned that I think we need to really remember, because you've been through something like 1,000 times. You've done the same diagnosis. You've done this. You've walked through the same steps. You've gone through your checks. You've done all this before. But you know what? That individual that you're with, they have not done that. And they have not, like, part of our job and is to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And to educate. And I promise you, okay, and I hope during the audio episode, like, this is, I might even clip this. There's a level of educating the person that you're with, because we get a bad rap, okay, in general, not just sales rep. I'm talking about service technicians. Everybody thinks like, because they don't know what is going on. But if you actually take the time to give them the information that they actually want and need, and give them a better, clearer understanding, they will more than likely, you will get them over the hump of, I got to get other estimates. I've got to talk to other people. I've got to look on YouTube. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And sometimes it just takes the fact that, like, you have to just slow down for 5 seconds and explain something to somebody, because making it click is that is the value that someone like you can offer when you show them, like, even in layman's terms, like, okay, look, you've got a battery here, battery's dead. Okay, there's some wiring here, it connects to this, and this is not working properly. Here's how it's supposed to work. Here's what the manufacturer spec says, and we're out of line. So I'm just letting you know what's happening. So sometimes it just takes that extra effort, and we don't. And then we get pissed off. Oh, I have this shit customer and he was a bastard and he was a cheap bastard and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, well, did you go the extra step to explain? And listen, sometimes you're going to get a jerk who's not going to listen to you no matter what you say, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
He's just not going. He's just not going to.
Yeah.
He's just going to look at dollar signs and that's it. And but on the other 70% of people that will actually stop for a second, and now even today, in today's day and age, it's even worse because everybody's got a high powered computer in every single hand. Everybody wants to Google absolutely everything. And, some people are like, no, just fix it. You know what I mean? Like the smarter people are like, no, just listen, just be fair and fix it and be real with me. But we don't. Anyway, so rant kind of over. And I know I've touched, on that before, but I did. What's that?
It's a good reminder. Like you were saying, communication is key. I always tell newer technicians that communication, like good communication with your customer, will set you apart from any other technician, because the majority of people don't know how to communicate. The majority of that is giving your customers options as well. Like going into a house and let's say that battery's bad. Like, here's 3 options you can do to fix this equipment that's going to make it last longer. It's going to cost, yeah, but this is the upside of it, or this is the downside of doing this option. It's educating your customer, making them see that there's different options and solutions to everything,
Yeah, but I can't even believe we're still having this conversation. Like, I can't even believe there's people out there that don't actually see the value in presenting information. And I think, you know what I really think? I really think what it comes down to is, I think that, they want to shortcut it. I think they want to shortcut it.
What I have that is send them on my way. I'll take them as a customer if that's the case.
One other thing, and I remember this from earlier. I'd forgotten what I was going to say, but here's the one thing. Ready? A lot of times you get guys who will, or customers who will be like, oh, I can't believe that motor's like $200. Why are you charging me, $700 for this? Well, here, okay. Well, I'm going to do this for the people who listen to this that actually don't really understand. Contractors typically operate at literally like less than like a 5% net profit, like 5%. Okay. Because
that typically has the lowest like net profit out of any trade.
Well, if you run it properly, you can make it profitable and you can run like any other business. Yeah. The problem it becomes is that insurance is really expensive. There's other costs, and also there's education costs. Like you're hiring a guy who actually can diagnose it. Like you don't walk into your doctor's office and say, oh, gee, and maybe you do. Maybe you shop around for a doctor, but I'm not saying not to the level that like, companies like us actually get shopped, right? So there are soft costs involved with operating a service company that most people just have absolutely no idea how to, and it's unfortunate for some reason. It's just our trade, but that educational piece will help to understand it. And I actually worked for a company that had like on the back on the invoice, it said included in your cost is a fully stocked truck outside, is the fact that you have a trained, drug tested, background check guy in your office, blah, blah, blah. Look, and this is like so elementary to like a lot of contractors, but I think a lot of small guys don't actually know this. And then they don't know how to handle that conversation. So, yeah, you bring up a lot of, you in general bring up a lot of, you bring this sort of front to mind, but
yeah.
So what else, Nate? You got anything else in the hopper there?
Yeah, I had one more. Let's see.
Let's get the finale going.
Well, I think it was actually supposed to be earlier, but that's okay. We'll do this one.
That's
So
all right.
I like creating, like, I work for a company, right? So like I don't necessarily have my own customer base because I work for a company. I like to kind of create myself a job security by telling people, hey, like if you liked my work today, you can ask for me back. You can ask for me to come back on your next visit, and that way, like I've created a relationship with that customer, and I can keep them at Legacy Heating and Air. So I have a good list about be their guy. I like that title.
That's my word of the year. I've been telling my guys, be their guy. Like, be their guy. Like, when they think HVAC, when they think service, like, they should be thinking about Nate. They should be thinking about you. I want to be the guy. I want to let them know, call Everett. I want to be your guy. You have a neighbor, friend that needs a new system, call me. I want to know about it.
For sure, because everyone wants a guy. You know, everyone wants that guy that knows he's honest and trustworthy and knows he's going to do good work as well. So why not try to be their guy? That's my thought. And also it comes with, like I said, job security, because like if I have, I don't know, 30 Nathan preferred customers and then a recession hits, they're going to be like, ooh, do we get rid of Nathan, or do we get rid of, sorry, Rodney, I'm going to throw you under the bus, or do we get rid of Rodney, you know, that doesn't have as many as Nathan? That's my thought, you know, so I'm going to try to be their guy.
That's good. All right. So you do this, great practice. So go ahead. What happened?
I had one customer that started being a Nathan preferred customer when I was at a different company when I started in 2020, right? So they were with me from 2020 till I started at the company I am now in 2021. I didn't see them for about a year. And then all of a sudden I get called out for the service call, and I show up to this house, whole different house than what they were at before. And they open the door and they're like, Nathan. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? Because I recognized them, but I didn't know exactly where they came from. And they're like, we're from so-and-so. Like, we heard that you left and we were so sad. So we started looking around for you. We started looking around. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you started looking around? They're like, we started calling different companies, seeing where you went, because they wouldn't tell us at so-and-so place where you went. And I was like, so you were calling around to different companies trying to find out where Nathan was. You were calling their phone and you were like, hey, do you have a Nathan that works here? It was just the weirdest thing to me. And I was like, that's
dude, really, dude, that is amazing. And that is the coolest. That is the coolest story, bro.
And I actually went back to their house today, so this is what jogged my memory to think about. Rodney had more Rodneys only. Nope, they're Nathan onlys from now on. But that being said, I went back to their house today and was reminded of that story, and that's why I was like, oh, I got to tell on Everett's podcast, because that was just the coolest thing to me. That, like, I don't know, like I just felt like I was just doing my job whenever I was there the first time, but maybe I was just doing that much more just for them to realize I was sticking out from everyone else. I mean, one of the things I always do is I completely strip the outside unit all the way down to the outdoor coil. And so that way I can really clean it really good with water or chemical or whatever I need to do to clean it. But one of the comments I always get whenever I do that, they come outside and they see all the units strewn out all over the yard. And they're like, wow, no one has ever done this before. I'm like, well, I don't know what to say. Sorry, I'm better than everyone else. No. But
I started seeing like people taking heat exchangers out on like maintenance calls. Like, and I'm like, whoa. Yeah. I mean, dude.
There's some opinionation about that. I don't know if I would go that far, but
it seems a little extreme, but yeah, it's
like, not to get into opinions, but that almost seems like too much to me. Like, because I've heard companies, especially in our area, do something like that. they point out like the smallest little piece of rust on the heat exchanger. They're like, oh, it's gonna crack, you're gonna die, when then I come for a second opinion on that, and I'm like, what do I do with this? Like I can't say like, oh yeah, they're right, and I can't say, oh, they did the wrong thing, because I'm not one to bad talk companies. Like if I go into your house, like I don't know what the technician before me said at all. Like I wasn't here. Like I can't say whatever he said, and I'm not saying that you're not saying the correct thing, but I'm just going to look at the equipment and I'll give you my professional opinion. That's how I always deal with those.
Yeah. So I will say, so like, sometimes I have a friend, he said this to me, and he was like, in judgment call situations where it's like, okay, look, do we see enough wear and tear here that's cause for concern?
Right.
Yes. Do we see an immediate situation of condemnation? No. And this comes back to the communication portion of it, which is, here's the situation. Your system's showing wear and signs. Does it mean it has to be replaced? No.
Yeah.
However, if this progresses, here's inevitably what will happen.
For sure. Yeah.
So now this is where you have to be an excellent communicator. So now you say something along the lines of like, you may have a customer who's super proactive, who's like, nope, I don't even want to deal with this. I'm not going to wait. I want to do it now. I want to get a quote on it now. You don't know, but then you're thinking, oh, I don't want to be too salesy. But then you were like, you did the wrong thing by not actually presenting the information. So it's like, just put the data out there.
Yeah.
Let them decide, but don't shoot yourself in the foot from anything, from potential opportunities to do more. And you might get somebody who's like, you know what? Great. I don't care. I wanted to get rid of it anyway. I just needed a reason.
Right. And I will say, I'm all for what you just said, 100%. It's the people who come in and gave them drastic.
Scare tactics and all that. Yeah. Like they give the industry a bad name, and that's part of the problem is when you give them. Yeah.
That's more what I'm talking about. Now, what you were saying, 100% agree with that. Like I am all for, this might be a problem in the future. Do you want to take care of this now, or do you want to take care of this later? That's up to you. That's 100%. I am totally for that. But just to be clear on that.
Yeah. I have to, I'm passionate about this topic.
Yeah.
Because there's a fine line between relaying and giving good information and giving information that is a scare tactic.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you don't know how somebody's necessarily going to react. So you have to just be factual about it.
Right.
Fact. Here's what I see. Here's the data. Here's what we can do, or we can do nothing. And that's the excellence in communication that most technicians don't have. They don't have it.
I'll tell you another story that I actually came across. This isn't my story, but I'll secondhand tell it, I guess. So it probably
you're allowed to secondhand a story.
So we recently had a training about dehumidifiers with a big company that sells dehumidifiers.
April here.
What?
Anyway.
It actually wasn't April here. So that's
there you go.
But they were telling us about this, because whenever someone sticks out and sells like a lot of their equipment, they like to go meet with them to see like, hey, like, what are you doing? What are you talking about to customers to really get information and, all that. So there was this one guy who worked for I think it was like a crawl space finishing, waterproofing company or something. And he was selling like 7 dehumidifiers a week. Like, this is the high end dehumidifiers that are like thousands of dollars. He was selling like 7 a week. So basically like more than 1 a day. So he's like, okay, like we need to go out here and like see what he's doing, because obviously he's doing something right. So the guy goes with him, and he's riding along to the first house. And they go into the first house. It's an old lady, and they have a crawl space they go down into. And he's taking pictures of water all in the crawl space. And then he goes up to the lady. He's in the crawl space with this guy from the company that we're getting trained from. And he's like, hey, watch this. I'm going to go sell this lady a dehumidifier. He's like, Okay, all right, let's go see what you do. So he walks up there and he pulls up all the pictures on his phone, and he says, "See this right here? This is going to turn into mold, and you're going to die." So yeah, that's what happened. And he said he called the owner of the company that day, and he's like, "Hey man, you got some pending lawsuits that are going to happen. You need to get ahead of this right now." You're muted, by the way. I can't hear you.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And with that, Nate, how can everybody get a hold of you? Where can they find you? I know you're not on Facebook, right? You're on Instagram, and you are. I couldn't find you.
Yeah, it's just HVAC Nate on Facebook. On TikTok, I think it's HVAC Nate. In Instagram, it's HVAC.Nate.
So, guys, if you want some informative and fun videos, some HVAC videos, go to HVAC Nate's. I'm gonna put it in here. So it's actually at HVAC Nate, right? And on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's at HVAC Nate on TikTok. That's where most of your like you get most of your views and everything like that, right?
Yeah. TikTok is mostly where most of my follows and all that, but I am leaning more into Instagram too, because I like the stories aspect of Instagram, so that can be like a daily thing that I do. TikTok is more like every once in a while. I used to do every week, but I've stepped back a little bit from that.
Well, that's so interesting to me because you have like 5,500 followers on TikTok and a fraction of that on not a fraction, but like 2,000 on Instagram. So I'm interested to see.
I didn't start my Instagram till I had around like 3,000 followers on TikTok, because I really know that there was a community on Instagram for it until I met Wolf of HVAC, Adam. And he kind of showed me like, hey, like there's a big community over here. And ever since joining Instagram, dude, it's been a world. Like I honestly like Instagram a lot more than TikTok.
Yeah. I was actually shadow banned on Instagram for the first like 60 days that I like started this podcast. So I'm so far. I don't even know what happened. I didn't actually even post anything. I didn't even post anything. And I got shadow banned, and so what was happening was they didn't shut down my page. I was able to go in there. I couldn't follow. I couldn't like. I couldn't comment on anything. So somebody could follow me, but nobody knew it was a page because I just started this thing like 7 months ago. Those bastards.
Yeah.
So dude, thank you so much for coming on. But on TikTok, it's different. On Instagram, it's at HVAC.Nate.
No, sorry, that's TikTok. So at HVAC.Nate is TikTok.
Oh.
Nate is Instagram. And then HVAC Nate on Facebook.
HVAC Nate on Insta. And then HVAC.Nate
on TikTok. Yeah. There's one person on TikTok that has HVAC Nate. And I've even messaged him and like, dude, you have like 2 followers. Like, can you change your name or something? Because it makes it so much easier. But
you can buy it. Cool.
You can. Interesting.
You can?
I don't know.
You can ask him to buy it.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'd say, guys, stay safe out there. And check out HVAC Nate. And I want to make a comment. I don't know why. This is probably not even I'm gonna take you off for a second here, Nate.
Okay.
I love that you came on, man. I'm gonna say goodbye. I got a couple of announcements to make. Hey, so this week on Thursday, I have 2 episodes this week. Thursday, I have the Billy Stevens coming on. The Billy Stevens. So you guys know who Billy Stevens is. He's like the godfather of home services. The guy's got an incredible story. He's been doing it a while. He's an older guy. Man, I don't know, not older, but he's whatever. He's probably 60. Really cool. Really cool. Really happy to have him on. And then Ken Goodrich and I are actually going to do a live episode. I think he's actually like at some point in time in the next couple weeks coming on. And he's going to be in Dallas. And he's, again, like you're talking the two biggest names in the entire industry are going to come on the podcast, which is just incredible. One other thing I wanted to say, not again, this is not related to my podcast. It's not related to HVAC. It's not related to sales. It's not related to everything. I just feel like, you know what? I have a little bit of a platform, and I wanted just to say this, like, man, do we need some healing in this country? We just, and I had to say it. I'm like sort of like almost in shock about what happened. You know, you know, with the assassination attempt, and I'm just like, you know, the whole thing is crazy. And you know, if you're on social media, I mean, you see all sorts of crazy stuff and conspiracy theories that have like no foundation and stuff like that. Like, guys, like I just think everybody needs to like look within themselves, really. And we're all American, and we, you know, I'm a true patriot. In fact, my sponsor for this show, my charity sponsor is actually the Texas Valor Project, which helps veterans with traumatic brain injury. So I encourage you to donate to them. You know, and I just want to put that out there. I love this country. I'm a patriot. And I think we really need some healing in this country. And I hope that we find it. But anyway, all right. God bless you guys. Love you. And I'll see you later this week.